bought a Spira. Here it is. Okay, I've already lied to you. I didn't buy a Spira. I bought 2 of them. Now I know what this looks like, but I don't want to be known as that guy who collects stupid little 3-wheeled cars. I only have 4 of them. It's a perfectly normal number of stupid little 3-wheel cars to have. You just shut up. These are Spiras, cars designed primarily for environmental friendliness and safety. Safety. You can't talk about Spira without talking about this guy.
My whole goal is to make an inexpensive vehicle.
Lon Ballard, the main man behind Spira. Also of note is his brother, Doug Ballard.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Doug Ballard with Team Spira.
Reading through Spira's website, 2 things become abundantly clear. 1, the website could really use some proofreading. And 2, these cars are Lon Ballard's passion project, something he truly believes in. According to the mini autobiography section on his website, Ballard's been dreaming of ways to make cars better since the 70s. He made his money in real estate some time ago, and ever since then, he's been using that money to just build whatever he wants. And let me tell you, this man, he's built a lot of vehicles. He's built several one-off vehicles like plastic scooter, plastic Cybertruck, and plastic step van. With solar panels. Him and his brother built a car to enter in the Automotive X Prize of 2010 and finished as one of the 4 finalists in their class. Of 4. He built a car to take the Guinness Book of World Records longest distance traveled in an EV on a single charge and went 482 miles without stopping. And of course, he started a car company to mass produce cars for the world. And that's what these are. Everything about the Spira origin story is so admirable. These aren't the result of some no-name Chinese company pushing cheap crap out the door, nor are they the result of some Silicon Valley type raising millions of investor money only to push cheap crap out the door. They're the result of an accomplished man with big ambitions, following through on his dreams, putting his own money on the line to build cars that he believes will make the world a better place. Every car company should have an origin story like that, and almost none of them do. I have a huge amount of respect for Lon Ballard, what he's done, and the story behind these cars. Unfortunately, while the story behind these cars is respectable and amazing, the cars themselves are, well, they're like an elementary school art project minus the glitter and macaroni. The body structure is corrugated plastic with no metal reinforcement. The upper body panels are just straight plastic. The lower body panels are loosely attached foam, and it's all put together hilariously poorly. And again, these are built for safety. The banner at the bottom of every page of the Spira website reads, Spira was created to reduce the 50 million injured and 1.2 million killed annually by vehicles. Its innovative light foam and core board technology also reduces the resources to build and fuel to power vehicles by a factor of 5 to 10. The resource mindfulness part of that, these do very well. They're made of almost nothing, they weigh almost nothing, and they use very little energy. But safety? We'll come back to that. What is a Spira? Well, whatever it is, it looks very unhappy about it. Just look at that face. Poor thing. Just wants to be hugged. The name Spira comes from perspiration. It's the sweat car. Okay, I'm making fun of it. Perspiration is only half the reasoning behind the name. The other half is inspiration. Perspiration and inspiration. Sweat and dreams. What it took to make this vehicle a reality. Again, such a respectable backstory. Several components of the Spira are built in China, but final assembly takes place in either Thailand, the Philippines, or San Diego. Lon himself, I think, is from Illinois, but I believe he lives part-time in Thailand now. The first thing you need to know about this vehicle is that it's horrifying to drive! But more on that later. This is a 3-wheeled electric car made of plastic and foam. Expanded polypropylene to be exact, the kind commonly used in packaging and RC airplane bodies. There's nothing special about this foam, except that it's being used as body panels on a car, which is not typically how it's used. Powering the Spira is a hub motor on each rear wheel. Supposedly there was also a gas version available, the 150cc scooter engine, but I've never seen one, and I don't even know how that would work given the suspension design, but there is something that looks like an exhaust cutout in the back foam panel here. There was also supposedly a base model available with only one motor, making it left-wheel drive. But again, I've never seen one, so I don't know if it was actually ever produced. The rear suspension of the Spira is 2 completely independent swing arms, seemingly from a scooter, that mount to 2 metal bars running the full width of the body. The metal bits in the suspension are the only bits of metal structure in the whole body. The front suspension is a simple front fork, seemingly also from a scooter. Steering is a tiller, pointed directly at my face. It swings side to side. This is your steering. It has a regular brake and throttle pedal, and about that. The Motor Trend review of this car from 10 years ago claims this is a 2-seater. There's not enough room for 2 people in here. And even if there was, the throttle pedal is all the way on the right side of the car. Plus, there's only 1 seatbelt. This is not a 2-seater. The other Spira is, but we're not there yet. Actually, I'm wrong. I found out after filming that, this has more than 1 seatbelt. It has 1.5? What I did know about is it has this 3-point belt here that buckles in all the way over here on the other side of the Spira. But what I didn't know about is this other belt. It's a lap belt, and it buckles into this buckle that's about 2/3 of the way across the seat. How's that supposed to work? If there's 2 people in the car, does the driver wear the lap belt and you both wear the 3-point belt? Both the belts anchor in the same spot, and I'm confused by this. In front of me, there's a foam dash with some divots and switches. There's a little gauge pot up here with a classy sticker covering what was probably the fuel gauge, and just below that is the BMS screen that isn't very well attached. Or at all attached. It shows some battery stats and state of charge. Unfortunately, that state of charge is meaningless. I fully charged it last night, and when I showed up, it said 0%. Now it says 99%, neither of which are accurate. There's a backup camera over here because there's no rear window, and down here is a radio. There's also a little remote for the radio and the steering tiller. Also on the tiller, you have various controls like brights, blinkers, horn, also horn, lights, and kill switch, which is effectively your neutral. The 5 switches on the dash are windshield wiper, which is upside down. Here's the windshield wiper. I mean, you're missing a good bit up here, aren't you? Hazard lights, fan. If you're curious what that fan button does, it's for the defroster vent. The one defroster vent. Backwards turtle, which is reverse. And this light switch turns on under dash lights so you can, I don't know, see your feet at night? I don't know what the purpose of these lights are. On the back of the seat right here is the heated seat switch. It has a heated seat. And no, it doesn't have cabin heat, unless you count the single defrost vent that's plumbed in series with a tiny little 72-volt resistive heater as cabin heat. But I don't, because that thing puts out as much heat as someone breathing on you. And floating around loosely in the floor is your charge cable. This is all you get, no J1772 for you. It's technically a hatchback, although hatchback seems like too strong of a word. Inside are some batteries, a whole mess of wires, and more than 1 current sensor. You can never have too many current sensors, that's what I'm always saying. There is normally a cargo floor covering the batteries and wires and stuff. Here it is. Is this like political sign material? This is your cargo floor. By the way, you can buy a Spira new today. A deposit is $100. Despite this, the Spira website has almost no information available about the cars. The website has way more information available about Lon Ballard himself than it does about the cars that he's selling. For instance, how much does a Spira cost? What are the specs? What sort of options are available? No idea, but I can tell you that Lon Ballard graduated from the University of Illinois, and he's built 76 energy-efficient townhomes in Peoria, Illinois. I did reach out to Lon to ask him questions about the Spira, like price and specs, but he didn't reply. That Motor Trend review from 10 years ago does list some options and pricing which ranges from $6,000 to $15,000, but that article's from 10 years ago, so I don't know if that's still true. What I do know, however, is what I can see in front of me. The battery is a 72-volt 24S lithium iron phosphate battery with about 5 kilowatt hours of capacity. The battery cells are Calb, and the BMS is Acrel or Acrel. I've never seen one before. I don't know what sort of efficiency this can achieve, but a guesstimate would put it at 30 to 50 miles of range. 50 miles of range would require 10 miles per kilowatt hour, but it doesn't weigh anything, so maybe. Assuming the label printed on the motors is accurate, each motor is rated for 6 kilowatts for a combined total of 12 kilowatts or 16 horsepower. That may not sound like much, but given this weighs almost nothing, it's plenty. And also, given what it's like to drive, it almost has too much power. This will do highway speeds, but only if you're brave enough. All right. 0 to 60. I would tell you what state of charge I'm at, but this useless piece of garbage says I'm at 0% when just a second ago it said I was at 97%. So I have no idea. Let's go! I gotta hit the pedal first. Oh boy. Oh! The door fell open! I guess I didn't have... Oh, stop! Close! Well... Oh my, I give up. 19.36 seconds. And we're gonna slow down now. Can you just stay shut? Nope. Still didn't get it. Nothing makes you feel more alive than the feeling that you're about to die. And that's why the Spira makes me feel more alive than any other car I've driven. The steering is incredibly twitchy. The single front wheel doesn't even remotely inspire a feeling of stability. Corners are terrifying. And the only thing between me and the dangers of the outside world is some foam and, don't pay attention to the road, is some foam and plastic. It'd make a much better shipping crate than it does a car. This is the second scariest vehicle I've ever driven on the road. In a straight line, it's mostly fine, but once you need to make an adjustment or follow a curve or, I don't know, avoid a car on the road, it's just, oh God. The driving experience of this is actually quite similar to the driving experience of the Twike, except scarier and more upright. And with a dramatically more uncomfortable seat. The seat bottom and seat back are just flat planks with a thin layer of padding. They're at a weird angle, and the front of the car is way too close to me, so I have to sit with my legs kind of folded up. It's awful. But since driving a Twike is not an experience most people have had, here's a different comparison. Imagine you're sitting in a plastic tub with some foam taped to the sides, of course. On top of you is another plastic tub. That's your roof. And this whole contraption is sat on top of an electric skateboard. It's about how it feels to be in a Spira. This video is sponsored by Factor. I just got done with a long day of filming at a secret undisclosed location in southern Illinois, right off Highway 3, just east of Cape Girardeau, and I'm famished. Thankfully, I brought with me a Factor meal. Factor meals are delicious, ready-to-heat meals delivered straight to your door. Each week you get to choose from a variety of meals, and all you have to do to prepare one is choose your meal, stab the film to vent it, and pop it in the microwave for 2 minutes. Get the sour cream out of here. That doesn't need to be microwaved. This is loaded bacon, shredded chicken. The sun is directly in my eyes. Factor meals are great for when you get too busy and forget to eat. Or when you don't get too busy, but still forget to eat. Or when you don't like cooking, but you've got 2 stupid cars in a trailer so you can't fit through a drive-thru. Besides, you don't want that drive-thru garbage. And if meals aren't enough for you, Factor also has add-ons like smoothies and cold-pressed juices, both of which I've had and both of which I've enjoyed. If you want to try Factor for yourself, and I highly recommend you do, go to Factor75.com and use code 50AgingWheels at checkout for 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Again, that's Factor75.com and use code 50AgingWheels at checkout for 50% off your first box plus free shipping. And thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video and sending me delicious food to eat. Let's go through the startup procedure. Don't scrape your backside on the horrible door latch. First, there's a couple breakers down over here to the left of the seat. Flip those on. There is some exposed high voltage here, but it's only 72 volts, so you'll probably be fine. And then flip on the key. It'll make some horrible noises. And that's it. It's on. It's also in drive. If the key is on, that throttle pedal is live. There's only forward and reverse. There's no neutral unless you count this kill switch here. There is at least a parking brake down here. And don't forget your seatbelt. Weirdly, it retracts from the bottom. Put this seatbelt on. Come on, give me the seatbelt. Oh yeah, now I feel safe. You gotta hear these motors at low speeds. I was gonna say it sounds spaceshipy, but the other one sounds a lot more spaceshipy. We'll get there. This thing is not wanting for power. There's good, strong off-the-line torque. There's good, solid off-throttle regen when you let off the pedal. It drives in one specific way, exactly how you would expect an EV to drive. It doesn't have full one-pedal driving, obviously, but it will bring it almost all the way to a stop. And since I just mentioned 2 good things, here's a bad thing. I'll use my hand to indicate when I'm letting off the throttle. There's a little bit of throttle lag when you let off the throttle sometimes. It just keeps accelerating for half a second, and that's terrifying. The motors are nothing special. They're just QS motors like what you can buy from AliExpress. And the controllers are Kelly controllers like what you can also buy from AliExpress or even Amazon. I think I've bought this exact same controller from Amazon before. They're easy to replace and easy to work on, but the downside is they're quite unrefined. Well, not in comparison to the rest of the car, but you know what I mean. I've already said the Spira is poorly built, but more specifically, the build quality could be described as homemade by a college student in a hurry on a tight budget. It's something. And I think no parts exemplify this build quality better than the door and the hatch. By the way, this is the other Spira. I don't know if you've picked up on it yet, but these two are very different. Anyway, the door, of which there is only one, Can't even hold itself up on this one. You have to lift up on the door to latch it. And it's not especially rigid either. There's nothing on the inside of the door to cover up anything. You just have bare door structure, more of that corrugated plastic sheeting. And as you can see, you've got a door latch, you've got a door handle, you've got some slidey windows surrounded by all the boogery silicone, and you've got a crappy cup holder here for all those wet lap enthusiasts. And then you've got this incredibly boogery epoxy filler where the two halves of the door joined together. And when you close the door, sorry, hold on, I gotta lift up on it. You've got this enormous gap right here. That's like an inch wide gap at the front of it. But don't worry, in the other Spira, they sealed up that gap with what is very clearly packaging foam. And see this massive gap here? That's obviously so when you open the door doesn't run into this panel up here. But it still does, like a lot. Look at that. And then there's the hatch, my favorite. First of all, mucho floppy. There's these support angle brackets, which were very clearly melted to shape, and this one looks like it even got burned a little bit. To act as a rubber stop on the top, they've added what definitely looks like a blob of hot glue to the top of the third brake light. And also, look at the silicone job around this. Was this left over from a bathroom renovation? But my favorite part by far is this right here. That's a handprint in the paint. I left these out in the rain last night, and I'm never doing that again. I found out on this one, the hatch seal doesn't. Like at all. Water dripped through this entire edge and got all over the batteries and wires inside. Thankfully, nothing was damaged. The material choices are interesting. The main structure of the Spira is made of these fiberglass-faced plastic honeycomb panels, similar to the aluminum honeycomb composite panels that make up the body structure of the Solo, but with a plastic honeycomb instead of aluminum. The Spira website says these panels are joined together with plastic welding. But to my eyes, this just looks like a big, generous, gloopy amount of epoxy with some squeeze out. Quality. And look at this down here. That's a lot of whatever that is. The shape of the structure is just a straight box aside from the front, the seat, and the cutout for the single door on the side. And remember how I said the body has no metal reinforcements aside from the two suspension bars in the back? That's even true for the front suspension fork. Where the fork attaches, the composite material is doubled up with a glued-on composite angle brace. While we're here, good luck adding brake fluid. I don't even know how you'd get the lid off. What a terrible place for a master cylinder. The top half in these fenders, I thought they were made of fiberglass. They're not. They're just plastic. Not even fiber reinforced plastic. They're just plastic. I'm pretty sure it's nylon. And of course, these body panels are made of foam, and they're so loosely attached. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, this whole front nose cone is only held on by the logo in the middle. Nothing else unless you count the through hole for the windshield wiper. This is the only thing holding this whole piece on. Similarly, this whole back panel is only held on by the license plate and this rear camera bracket. But what's weird is the mixture of parts they used. Some of the bits look like whatever Jimmy found in the back dumpster that day, like the hinges for the hatch, the freaking bath mat in the floor, or, you know, the plastic honeycomb panels that make up the body structure. But other parts are totally custom-made factory parts specifically for the Spira, like the windshield. The entire upper half of the body. The mold for that plastic bit must have been enormous. And of course, all these giant foam chunks had to have a custom mold too. They even molded the brand name into the foam on the steering tiller. It's such a weird mixture of high effort and low effort. It's like they hired a proper engineer to design this car, but he quit after 2 months and they never replaced him. And then there's how these parts fit together. Here's the left rear wheel. Stare at it, memorize it. Now here's the right rear wheel. Look at it. Did you notice the brake disc was on the same side? And this brake caliper with the parking brake doesn't fit in here at all. It's pushing the fender out by a good couple of inches. Now, and these fenders, they're barely attached. The one on the left side over there is held on by one single bolt. I don't know what sort of glue they used for the mounting tabs, but it sucks and they've all broken off. The thing is well, it's hilarious. That's what it is. So I gravitate to cars like this. They're funny. When they're not actively trying to kill you, they're making you laugh. Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned the year of manufacture yet. This is probably a little bit newer than you'd expect it to be. This is from 2017. But remember, I bought two Spiras. This is definitely the better of the two, despite being the older one. The other one is from 2021. It's only 4 years old, and it's quite a bit different. Spira number 2 is a different model of Spira that I didn't even know existed before this one popped up for sale. Compared to the first Spira, it's wider, it has different wheels and tires, entirely different suspension design, it has different motors, it has double the battery capacity, it has a steering wheel instead of a steering tiller, and this is the big one, did you notice? It has 4 wheels! Look, it's got a whole subframe, double wishbone, rack and pinion steering, some coilovers. It's all there. The brake master cylinder is even more obscured in this one. It's way up there. There's no chance of getting to that. It looks so goofy too, because the front wheels are so close together, it kind of looks like a person doing this. You would expect the wider, 4-wheeled Spira to feel safer and less scary, but it doesn't. Earlier I said the 3-wheeled Spira is the second scariest car I've ever driven on the road. This one is the scariest. It doesn't feel like it's about to roll over like the 3-wheeler does sometimes. But the steering in this one is so much worse. I think it has play in it, but it's almost impossible to tell because the front end is so light you can't even tell when the steering is engaged. But it's darting around all over the place, making movements that I'm not requesting, so it must have play in it. And it feels like there's not the proper amount of caster angle because it's darting all over the place. You gotta really be on your toes to drive this one. And just like in the 3-wheeled Spira, the seat is rock hard and in a terrible, uncomfortable position. My legs are folded. The suspension is rock hard. Feels like it might as well not have suspension at all. But the steering, I am not exaggerating, it's horrifying. It's darting all over the place. But hey, at least in this one, you can fit 2 people. Barely. Jeez. Man, this steering wheel doesn't feel like it's mounted all that well either. 0 to 60. Again, I do not know what the state of charge is. That thing is meaningless. Let's just go. The bath mat has gone, wait, hang on. The bath mat, floor mat has gone up underneath the throttle pedal. That's annoying. Let's try this again. Go! That wasn't any better. Okay. Once it crosses over 40 miles an hour, the steering gets to be really, really scary. I'm just trying to keep it in a straight line. 56, 57, 58. Please don't make me stare at that. 20 seconds. So this is marginally slower. It's still accelerating. This is marginally slower. Emergency braking. Come back, door. Come back. Okay, nope, we're not doing a full braking maneuver. Okay, that was 20 seconds to 60. I'm gonna never do that again. If you're anything like me, you'll look at the 4-wheeled version of the Spira, and the first question that'll pop in your head is, how is this road legal? With the 3-wheeled Spira, there's no mystery here. As any cheap up-and-coming automaker will tell you, if you want to build a car and sell it to people, but don't want to have to deal with all those pesky regulations and crash safety standards, all you have to do is remove a wheel and boom! It's not a car anymore, it's a 3-wheeled motorcycle, and you don't have to worry about any of that crap. And this is beneficial to consumers too. It allows me to go out and buy any death trap I want to, so long as it has a wheel remove making it less stable. It's a great system. Actually, there is one thing that confuses me. In the US, 3-wheeled vehicles like this one are required to have a center mount headlight, which this doesn't have. I don't know how they got away with that, but I'm not gonna worry about it. But this isn't a 3-wheeler, it's a 4-wheeler. So how is this 4-wheeled vehicle that clearly doesn't comply with like any federal motor vehicle safety standards road legal? It isn't. The build sticker under the dash says this is a utility terrain vehicle. The title says it's an ATV. By the way, did you notice the sticker under the dash says this vehicle conforms to all federal motor vehicle standards? Not safety standards, just standards. Legally, this isn't a car, so I can't get plates for it. In my state, these Spiras came from Arizona, and due to a mix-up at the random dealership that these cars came from, rather than specifically this one getting signed over to me, it was signed over to the friend who went and looked at it for me, who lives in Arizona. Fun fact about Arizona, in Arizona, you can get license plates for an ATV. So I told him to go ahead and register it. So it's road legal now with Arizona plates. And by the way, this is only temporary. I plan to transfer the title over to my name after this video's done. I just wanted it road legal enough to make this video. And after this video's done, I have no desire to drive this on the road ever again. Anyway, despite this being the newer of the 2 Spiras, the build quality of this one is worse. By a lot. This is the one with the saggy door that won't shut properly. This is also the one with the handprint and the paint under the hatch. The dash in this one is upholstered. But oh my God, look at it. It's so bad. It's like a kindergartner made it. The foam wrapping the steering tiller and the three-wheeler is janky, but this is a whole new level. And if you lift up this upholstery, you can see the steering column bracket, which is just, it's a work of art, that's what it is. And you can clearly see the plastic honeycomb composite material that makes up the body structure. And some lovely epoxy fillet here. I'm pretty sure this is the same foam dash that's in the three-wheeler, but it's cut in half to accommodate the steering column. And my favorite part, it is so loosely attached. It's just sitting here. There's one screw up here that I can see, and there's two screws over on the side that are just not attaching it anymore. Look at the lovely caulk job around these mirrors. The three-wheeler has these little turn signal pods mounted on the A-pillar. Well, the mounting holes for those are still here on the four-wheeler, so they just filled them up with caulk. And when you're done looking at the caulk around the mirrors, look at the adhesive around the windshield. It's even smeared onto the windshield at the bottom here. The person that put this one together, were they drunk? Was it their last day? Did their mom just die? What was going on? There's also the silicone smeared around this reflector. The silicone smeared around this light shield, which is actually the only thing holding this light shield in place. Hasn't held up quite as well over here. And take a look at how this front subframe was assembled. Yeah, that's not centered. I think they missed welding on the front entirely, and over here it's just some nice solid booger welds. And what's going on with this one? They missed the pipe. I didn't notice this until I tried to pick this one up. At the front end, it is substantially weaker on this one because there's a giant cutout for the front wheels. I don't even think I could pick up the front of this one without it breaking off. And yes, you can pick up the front end of the three-wheeler. It's very light. And this upholstered pad on the inside, that's just award-winning. Both Spiras are like this. Back inside, this one has a different set of equipment. This one has two speedometers. They don't agree with each other, and that one's in kilometers per hour for some reason. And the information about the battery is split between these two screens, and neither one of them is correct. See how this one says the battery is fully charged? That's not correct. And see how this one says the battery is currently discharging at a rate of 86 amps? That's also not correct. This one also has a different array of switches. You have classic footlight, backwards turtle, wimpy fan, and hazard lights. And here's the defroster vents in the four-wheeler. There's twice as many as in the three-wheeler, and they do almost exactly as nothing. But you also have these two unlabeled warning lights. No idea what they indicate. And this unlabeled switch. No idea what it does. It's on right now. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. And because this one has a steering column, it has column stocks for your wipers and your lights. Here's what the blinker sounds like. Good stuff. Here's the windshield wiper in this one. The windshield is extra wide, but there's still only one wiper. Is it adequate? There's all this over here. No. The answer is no. The steering wheel is straight out of a Little Tikes car. It is such a cheap piece of crap. This is the cheapest plastic I've ever laid my hands on. And also, look how rigid this isn't. That's fun. And I did translate this. This is not Chinese for Spira. This is Chinese for New Energy. This is just a wheel from Alibaba or something. But my favorite feature on the inside of this one is that it has two hazard light switches. You've got this hazard light switch on the dash, which turns on your hazards, but you've also got this one on the top of the steering column, which turns on your hazards and kills motor power. This is the only hazard light switch I've ever experienced that makes me the hazard. To make this wider version of the Spira, some of the parts they had to make custom, like the body structure, the roof panel, the hatch, the windshield. But as many parts as possible are just repurposed from the three-wheeler, like the nose cone. The nose cone is just two three-wheeler nose cones spliced together in the middle with some sculpting done to match the new shape of the windshield. I mean, you can even see the very obvious seam in the middle. The same is true for the foam piece in the rear. Very obvious seam joining the two halves together. And yes, this nose cone is still only held in place by the logo in the middle, but because it's extra wide, it's extra loose on the sides. Because the body of this one is wider and it has 4 points of contact with the ground, you can feel all the torsional rigidity the body structure doesn't have. You can just feel it twisting. I should not let go of this wheel. You can feel it twisting away. And like I said, the suspension is rock hard. It's just so bad. I don't know how fast this is capable of going, but I'm not taking it anything past 60. That was horrifying. This one also has QS motors and Kelly controllers, but they're different models from the three-wheeler, and I don't know anything about them. The power rating wasn't written on these motors, and I looked up the model number, but I didn't find anything, so I don't know anything about them. Now, the four-wheeler is way more of a rattle trap, but it also makes much cooler spaceship-y sounds. Listen. Right? It's good, and now it sounds like a jet engine. This one has the same battery cells and BMS as the three-wheeler, but twice the number of cells, giving us about 10 kilowatt hours of capacity, which would equate to, I don't know, 50 to 100 miles of range? Again, I don't know the efficiency numbers, so I'm only guessing on the range. The screen in this one does show an efficiency number, but what it's showing is 2.4 kilowatt hours per mile, not miles per kilowatt hour, kilowatt hours per mile. And that would give this a range of 4 miles, so that's definitely wrong. Oh, and just before filming, the charger in this one stopped working. Now to get this to charge, I have to manually jump the contactor, and that's a problem. Also worth noting is I have no idea how many of these exist. The VIN on this one is 9 and the VIN on this one is 3. But I don't know if that's production number of the year, or just a totally meaningless number. And the only thing the website says about it is that in 2014, 20 Spiros were shipped to the US. Okay, I've avoided it long enough. We have to talk about safety. Now, I'm not a crash safety engineer. I'm not even an engineer. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about crash safety. I'm not an expert, I could be wrong. Actually, that goes for anything I'd say in general. I'm not an expert in anything. From the top of the history section of the Spiro website, I would like to think that if I accidentally ran over my little girl, that she would live without much harm. That phrasing. Imagine if a civil engineer said, I'd like to think that bridge won't collapse when cars drive over it. Pedestrian protection? Yeah, I could see that. They're covered in foam. At low speeds, I'd rather be hit by one of these than most any other car on the road. This windshield's still gonna hurt like hell, but this bit's all soft and squishy. And if most of the other traffic on the road is two-wheeled, like it is in Thailand, then these soft squishy things could be a nice addition to the road. Clearly, the focus is on pedestrian safety, but the Spiro doesn't just purport to be safe for pedestrians, it also purports to be safe for the occupants of the Spiro as well. Lon makes a lot of interesting claims about the safety of these vehicles. These are all direct quotes from the Spiro website. Over 6 inches of soft foam on all sides provides an estimated 1 billion tiny airbags for enhanced safety. Spiro for You is designed to divert to the side in most crashes rather than be crushed. Foam can replace steel in cars for a more cushioned impact, just as foam has replaced leather soles on most shoes and sandals. The pointed front decreases air resistance and makes for a small target. In a crash, it is best to deflect and roll, as in judo. Those are claims. But he wouldn't just make up a bunch of wild claims without anything to back them up, would he? No. Also on the Spiro website are crash test videos.
Recently, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety put the Spiro to a 40-mile-per-hour crash test, the kind of crash where a vehicle hits an object like a pole or tree. Ballard says the Spiro bounced off rather than coming to a dead stop like typical cars.
I've designed an indestructible plate. Here's a regular plate. Now here's my plate. Proof that it's indestructible. I'm pretty sure that was the IIHS small frontal overlap crash test, where 25% of the car's width hits a barrier. But because of the Spiro's unique shape, most of the width is in the back, so 25% of the car's overall width is like here. Of course it bounced off. So yeah, in that exact scenario, the Spiro is much safer. And I pulled this straight from the IIHS website. The severity of a frontal crash depends on the vehicle's weight. So ratings in this test can only be compared among vehicles of similar weight. The Spiro weighs like 400 pounds. But wait, there's another crash test video. I didn't stop it there. That's just where the video ends. Let's go to the last few frames. First, that doesn't look like it survived that very well, but go back a few more frames and what is that? That doesn't look anything like a production Spira. Is that an early prototype? There is another crash test mentioned on the website, but I couldn't find a video of it. And that's it. That's all the crash tests. Well, unless you count driving a truck into a foam approximation of a Spira with a dead pig inside as a crash test. What did that prove? You just wanted to hit a dead pig with a truck. There's also a documented case of a real-life person getting into a real-life accident in one of these vehicles. Specifics of the crash, like speed, aren't entirely clear, but what they say is the car was T-boned and rolled 4 times. I guess it did a judo. This evidence is anecdotal, but hey, the guy survived with minimal injuries from a crash in one of these, so that's something. Now back to those claims, such as over 6 inches of soft foam on all sides provides an estimated 1 billion tiny foam airbags. First of all, the Spira doesn't have 6 inches of foam on all sides. On the sides and back, it's like 4 inches. Maybe that's referring to the X-Prize Spira? Regardless, chunks of foam and airbags are not the same thing. For one, airbags are out of the way when you don't need them. And then when you do need them, they deploy to go between you and the hard thing you might be about to smash into, like the window next to your face, or the steering wheel, or the dash. Foam can't do that. The foam dash in this isn't going to jump out to get between my face and the steering wheel. And if you're relying on foam to act like the airbags, why isn't there much of it on the inside of the Spira? The ceiling doesn't have any padding at all. The door doesn't have any padding at all. There's a little bit of cushioning on the left side of the seat, basically nothing on the right side of the seat. The dash is made of foam, but I'm not going to hit that. If I get in a head-on collision with this thing, I'm going to hit this, the thinnest piece of foam on the whole vehicle. And underneath this is a metal bar. The four-wheeler doesn't even have that. In a head-on collision in this thing, my face is going to hit the Fisher-Price steering wheel. And then I'll be Edward Plastic Shard's face. Again, for pedestrian safety, the foam is probably great. But the foam is claimed to be a way to bring safety to pedestrians and passengers. And remember this other claim? Spira for You is designed to divert to the side in most crashes rather than be crushed. Cool, cool. So if I crash in a very specific way, then I'll probably be fine. Got it. But what about accidents where it doesn't divert to the side? Is this 4 inches of foam on the side supposed to act like a crumple zone? But at least you have rollover protection in the form of the seat back. This is made of the same honeycomb composite sandwich as the rest of the body structure. And I'm super glad that's there because these A-pillars are only a couple millimeters thick of totally unreinforced plastic. They ain't holding up nothing. And we haven't even talked about accident avoidance. And I don't mean the fancy stuff like collision avoidance or automatic braking. I mean the simple stuff. This doesn't have traction control or ABS. And shoot, it's a 3-wheeler. You could roll this thing by swerving to avoid road debris. I'd love to see one of these take the moose test. Spira and the story behind it reminds me very strongly of an electric car concept from the 70s, the Yar.
This is the Yar, spelled Y-A-R-E.
You had a guy who made his money doing something unrelated to cars.
In the creative career of Dr. H.D. Kessling, who has also built an outstanding career as inventor of orthodontic appliances.
Who had an unrelenting vision of the car he wanted to make a reality.
Since 1952, when the idea for the Yar was born.
Just like with the Spira, he wanted it to have a low environmental impact.
Clean, inexpensive, environmentally correct electric power.
And he wanted it to be safe. And just like with the Spira, his ideas of how to make a car safe were questionable.
Dr. Kessling is firm in his belief that in a high percentage of collisions, the Yar, because of its smooth, curved design, would be diverted from its obstacle.
Listen to that. Even the narrator of the film doesn't believe Kessling. And again, you can't design a car to only withstand a very specific kind of crash. By the way, I recommend watching that whole video. It's fascinating. There'll be a link in the description. Like I said, there's a lot of similarity between the Yar and the Spira, but the biggest difference, aside from the Spira actually making it to production, is the time period. The Yar was from the 70s. Dr. Kessling may not have had any idea how to make a car safe or how to design suspension. I mean, what is this nonsense? But it was an honorable goal because the cars of the time were not safe. That's not true anymore. Crash safety engineering has come a long way. Any car produced for the US in the past 15, 20 years is going to be leaps and bounds safer than anything built in the 90s or earlier. Lon makes a lot of claims about how safe these cars are without, in my opinion, adequately proving they're safe. If these looked like regular cars, I would take issue with that. But they don't. No one's going to walk up to one of these and say, yep, looks safe to me. I'm going to trust this with the lives of my children. They're much more likely to say, oh, look at that. Did your children build this? That's a lot of silicone. For me, the biggest takeaway of these cars is this. If you have a dream and money, go for it. What's holding you back? This man started a car company building cars out of packaging supplies, e-bike motors, and bathroom caulk. The existence of these is proof that you can do whatever you want. Maybe you think airplanes should be made of concrete, boats should be biodegradable, or you'd be a lot more productive if only your keyboard shined a laser up your nose. Whatever your dream is, make it happen. All it takes is inspiration and perspiration. And money. Money's important too. And lastly, yeah, it floats, I guess. But that's like the least interesting aspect of these things. The body is a tub and the body panels are made of foam, so Lon has taken some photo ops of these things floating in a lake. But this makes me angry because the motors and motor controllers are on the outside of the tub, so they had to be waterproofed. And there's a big bundle of wires going from the inside of the tub to the outside of the tub, and that big hole also had to be waterproofed. And how did they do this waterproofing? They just globbed silicone over everything. And why does this make me angry? Because when I got this home, both rear tires were flat because both the valve stems had rotted out. And to replace those valve stems, I had to disassemble the whole rear suspension assembly on both sides, which was annoying enough, but the icing on the cake was having to scrape off and dig out all this silicone that was smothered all over everything just so they could say it floats. And that's the Spiros. It's amazing that these exist. It's wonderful to see someone fully following through on their dreams, getting out there to make the thing that they want to make. It's just too bad that these aren't, good. They have all the characteristics of a home-built car or like a college project, but that's not what they are. And now I'm left with, what do I do with them? I'm not going to use them. I drove the three-wheeler into town once, and that left me with the desire to never do that again. And the four-wheeler is so dramatically more terrifying than the three-wheeler that I am afraid to take it past the end of the street. That's why I bring them out here. That's why I have brought them out here into the middle of nowhere to film. There's no traffic. There's no other people to deal with. It's just these cars. And in that context, they're mostly okay to drive on the street. Mostly. But what do you think I should do with them? I did email the IHS crash test facility to see if they would take a donation, and unfortunately they said no. So if you have any ideas of what I should do with them, let me know. And also, if on the bizarre off chance that you want to buy them or one of them, email me. Thank you for watching.